Here's the good news, and some of you have heard me say this before. I'm 63. I type with two fingers. If I can figure this stuff out, we all can. And none of us have all the answers, but I think collectively, in aggregate, I think we have most of the answers. And that's my hope today as well, because we're going to touch on a topic that I think is still emerging, which is the impact of AI on our business models, how we charge for our products and services, how we make money. And I think a lot of this is unclear. And so I really want an active chat today in terms of what you're seeing in your company or industry, or what predictions you might have for the impact of AI on your business model. So I'm all in on AI. My journey started February the 1st, 2023, and I pivoted section to focus on this wave. It's the only time I've ever made money in my 35-year Silicon Valley career, is when I've been able to position myself personally and my company or companies in waves of growth. And obviously AI is a growth wave. I started a company called Machine and Partners a year ago. We develop AI applications. I have a newsletter. I have a new YouTube show starting soon. I just filmed a test episode half an hour ago, and I'm lecturing this fall with a close friend, Lucas Miller, and I. We're doing an AI leadership class at Haas School of Business at Berkeley. So I'm all in. There are some early winners with AI, accelerating user growth. As you all know, OpenAI now have about 10% of humanity using its products. We have accelerating revenue growth. Check this out. This is Anthropic, the #2 independent AI company to OpenAI, adding $1 billion in revenue in just 2 months. And it took 21 months over a year ago. We have hockey stick growth in other AI tools. I'm Canadian. I always have to have a Canadian analogy or reference. So I used hockey sticks today. This is what we call hockey stick growth, right? Lovable is a coding, vibe coding platform, Cursor, an engineering, a software coding Copilot, Harvey, a legal AI. Very concentrated early winners in terms of NVIDIA and the companies that I just referred to. So the early winners, there aren't many of them. I'm not yet one of them. I'm hoping to be, and I hope you will be a winner as well. It will take longer, though, likely for the rest of us. A lot of dream chasers. This was the startup market map before it was crowded. So it's more crowded now. If you are an AI researcher or you have a PhD, none of my kids do, unfortunately. I should talk to them about that, why they wanted to be liberal arts majors. But if you're an AI researcher, it's show me the money time. And if you work for OpenAI and some of these other companies, it's like, hey, I want to buy my mansion in San Francisco, so I need some liquidity. And so OpenAI is basically rumored to be offering a $500 billion valuation to investors in order to allow employees to sell their shares. I invested in this round a month ago at a $340 billion valuation. So this valuation's gone up quite a bit in about 30 days. And then finally, even the billboard guys are cashing in. If you live in the Bay Area, which I do, you drive up and down Highway 101, all you can see is AI billboards. Everybody's making money, it seems, but it's not. As I said, it's highly concentrated. What about the rest of us? Are we going to make money in the age of AI? I think the storm clouds are forming out there for a lot of us as it relates to how we charge for our products and services. And I think some incumbents are starting to feel that pain. This is Gartner, almost 40% drop in their market cap in the last 30 days for lots of reasons, not just AI, but that's one reason. It's clear now, whether you're Gartner or McKinsey or someone else, in terms of charging for strategic advisory services by the hour, that AI can do a big chunk of that work. So, and we'll obviously talk more about that today. And of course, incumbents love to make excuses, including Section, by the way. At least the first two excuses are what I heard from my team a year ago. We can't cannibalize our existing business. No one's asking for this. Or we tried it once, it didn't work, because we'd actually built Prof AI twice before the current version, and the first two didn't work. I've heard all these excuses, and you might be thinking some of these yourself. And that's natural and normal, but we're here to talk about at what degree of intensity and velocity should you abandon these excuses and change your business model. That's what I hope to help you with today, to give you a framework or two that you can use to do some analysis with you and your team. It might be just yourself if you're a solopreneur or a solo operator, or if you own and run the company, and maybe you do this on your own. Hopefully you get to do it with someone else, maybe your management team or a thought partner, maybe your spouse even, I don't know. Meanwhile, because of these excuses, private equity firms are offering what I call AI makeovers, which what that really means is we're going to buy your company and then we're going to make you adopt AI and we're going to make you change the business model. We're going to ignore all your excuses. And we see now, whether this will work or not, we'll know in 5 years, but significant venture and private equity firms are now buying law firms. They're buying language intensive businesses, and they're basically saying, as the new owner, you don't have a choice here. You are going to become an AI native firm. You are going to innovate with AI, and you're going to change the business model with AI. So this is going to happen in industries where the incumbents may not want to do it, but someone else is going to come from the outside and force this change. We'll see it first, in my opinion, in legal and law firms. So, and that's because these investors know that the best disruptors, if you look past the last 20 years, I think you can point to almost every great success in terms of new company, so startup that grew into a significant enterprise. I think you can point to a strategy that executed against product innovation and business model innovation. That Netflix invented a dramatically better consumer experience with a dramatically better pricing model, all you can eat, unlimited. Airbnb, same, right? Peer-to-peer stays plus a marketplace fee. Snowflake really showing the way for SaaS companies, not the only, but clearly one of the highest profile in terms of SaaS software, a cloud data platform, but pay as you go or pay as you consume pricing. And of course, Amazon Prime back in the consumer world, standard shipping and per item fees replaced by very fast shipping and an annual fixed fee for Amazon Prime. So I would suggest that the great winners in most categories start with the product innovation, but then they really beat the competitors with the business model innovation. Most incumbents can respond eventually to product innovation, meaning they can add AI into their products. Microsoft obviously is an example of this today, but a lot of software companies, and not just software. We can add AI into our product or service roadmaps and sort of improve the offering, but innovating our business model when we have a whole bunch of revenue and a whole bunch of customers dependent upon that source of revenue or that business model, very tough for incumbents to make that change. And this is where the risk comes to incumbents, and this is where the startups or the innovators really, I think, kick the shit out of the incumbents and accelerate their growth. They combine product innovation with business model innovation. So it's not surprising to me that CEOs are punching out. I mean, I'm not saying this to say we should have a lot of empathy for CEOs. They're all overpaid and they don't work very hard, in my opinion. They mostly focus on their golf. But listen, over 2,000 punching out last year. I think they look at this landscape and say, screw it, I will go work on my golf game, because the disruption is coming. It's coming pretty fast. But here are the three that I've focused on. The cost of cognition goes to zero. Anyone or everyone can code, and machines will work autonomously. Let me talk about each of those and unpack them with three specific implications. There's a lot on these slides. It doesn't look like there's a lot, but there's a lot. So I'm going to slow down here a little bit. And you might want to screenshot these slides if you're not a member, because I think you can use these slides to go and have really good conversations with your teams around the implications of this. The cost of cognition goes to zero. What I mean by that is the cost of good enough knowledge work really will be zero if it isn't already. And I know some of you will say, listen, but there's AI can't do all the knowledge work, and there's the high end of knowledge work that AI can't do, and I agree with you. So, but don't let that distract you from that. The most knowledge work, or a lot of it that's good enough knowledge work that humans do, it can be done by AI in many cases in many industries, not all. So these are generalizations, I would admit, right? 24/7. This is a really a significant impact that we're not seeing yet, but we will, or implication. AIs don't work on our schedule. AIs don't have weekends. and they don't clock off at 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock. Eventually all of us have to go to sleep. AIs don't. And this will ripple through our economy. When you think about how knowledge work is done, knowledge work is going on to a new non-human schedule of 24/7. And then everyone's almost an expert, not everyone and not an expert in all cases. But again, when you think about the cost of cognition coming to zero, one of the implications of that is everyone, including your customers, can become experts to a degree. And I think that has significant implications for our business models, because customers will be able to rely on us less, not more, for some of their cognitive outcomes. Everyone can code or design or write or think, right? But if you think about what's going on here, what's really going on here is new product development time is being dropped dramatically. New products can be now built, tested, prototyped much faster and pushed into the market. That can be good for incumbents if they can harness that and find product market fit for new products or services faster. It's traditionally taken longer and been more expensive. It also means, however, that new entrants come from anywhere. Again, I want to pause here for a moment. This is really important. And I think one way to bring this to life is if you want to use an oldie but goodie strategy framework, that would be Michael Porter's 5 forces. When you run a Michael Porter's 5 forces analysis, and by the way, you can have AI do it for you, just write a good prompt. It'll key in on this issue, this challenge, right? Which is this idea that new entrants can come from a lot of different directions now. Particularly suppliers can become now competitors much faster and easier than they could before. And I want us to really consider that. And then similarly, companies, including your employees, can jump capability boundaries. This to me is one of the promises of AI that I love. A data analyst with AI can become a management consultant. That means a data analyst can jump the capability boundary and accelerate themselves. That's the upside, right? And I think we're seeing that happen already. People who don't know how to code can become coders. They can't become expert coders, but they can build lightweight applications or prototypes pretty quickly. Companies can do the same. So companies today that are held in place by a lack of capability can now jump that capability boundary, perhaps become a partner, perhaps become a competitor, perhaps become a supplier. It's not always negative, but I really, really want us to appreciate the fact that we'll see companies jumping these capability boundaries faster than ever before. And then finally, agents or machines working autonomously, obviously overhyped, not ready for prime time, but we're starting to understand at least the implications of agents and autonomous work on our business models. One and the first of which that I notice is inefficient workflows are exposed by AI. And if you don't fix them, I think that creates risk to you and your business model. If you fix them with AI, I think you'll be in better shape. But autonomous machines will expose our inefficient human workflows. Parallel work will be the norm. Serial work is replaced, meaning most work today is a workflow and sometimes passed back and forth between customer and client as one example, or different parts of the organization inside. Really, that's going to get replaced by what I call parallel work. We'll be able to either move through the serial work on a very accelerated timeline, or we'll be able to do things in parallel because machines can do things in parallel. That does have implications for how we build our products and also how we charge for them and how we kind of collect the revenue. And then finally, human scarcity replaced by machine abundance. I think the biggest outcome of that, and frankly, all these implications, is that expectations are rising across the board. I think consumer expectations are rising. Our expectations of how we get information with less and less friction, with higher and higher value and intelligence. I see that in my own use of basic search engines and GPT, now GPT-5. I think across the board, enterprise customers, your customers, their expectations are going up. They want the outcomes of higher quality, faster, and cheaper. I think the genie is out of the bottle. Expectations rising dramatically quickly. So to summarize, for most of us in the knowledge economy, I think our labor and cost models are resetting. If they haven't already, I think they are about to reset. For some of you, it's happening now. For some of you, it's going to happen in the next couple, 1, 2, 3 years. That's relatively quickly, right? In the life of a company or a business. Existing competitive moats, I think, are getting blown up for many of us, not all of us. Some of us have very robust moats, and we should leverage those moats to buy us some time to figure out our strategy. We don't need to rush, perhaps, as much as others. Others might have to rush quickly because those moats are getting blown up. Suppliers are going to become competitors. Customers will jump the capability boundary and not need us anymore, in a worst case scenario. Expectations, as I said already, quality, speed, and impact of your product or your service are going through the roof. That's why SaaS companies, software companies, are facing high levels of churn in the last couple of years, and they will only accelerate, meaning churn's going up. That's because expectations are going up and they're not being met. So what are the implications of these forces, these disruptive forces, and what are the new AI native business models that I think that we can use to adapt to these forces, take advantage of them rather than being punished by them? There are no shortage of new ways to charge for customers. I mean, there really are, and all these startups that we know about will try some version of all these new business models, because again, they know the playbook. Innovate on the product and then innovate on the business model, and you really have a chance to put the incumbents on the run, really on the defensive. So we're going to see all kinds of crazy business models being tested from AI native companies. Most will fail, and we'll have existing business models that survive the test of time, right? I mean, listen, most of AI is being sold on a subscription model. OpenAI is sold on a monthly subscription model. They haven't innovated particularly yet on the business model. They've done some innovation, maybe in terms of consumption on the API or tiers, but really not that much. They've fallen back on a tried and true subscription business model. So I don't think in some cases it won't all be all new, right? We'll have a mix of new and existing models and some hybrid models. I want to focus on these three. These, to me, are the three more likely and more disruptive business models that I think will hurt us, or we can leverage them ourselves in our own businesses. I want to walk you through these three first. Obvious problem statement. I'm going to start each business model with a problem statement, and then we'll talk about the business model. Trained experts are scarce and expensive, and that's good if you're a trained expert, because that makes you scarce and expensive, and that's your business model, right? Whether it be McKinsey or a three-person, specialized consulting shop. Trained experts are scarce and expensive. Lots of money to the customer, right? Trained experts are expensive, not always necessarily a great outcome. Sometimes, but not always. So what's the model? I think the model that replaces this, if you will, or comes into play, is something that I call service as a platform model. Other people are calling this the same thing. So what that means is specialized models give you access to expert knowledge via some sort of platform, not necessarily a marketplace, but some sort of platform, and then pricing likely in an all-you-can-eat subscription, maybe a sort of a pay-per token or sort of pay-per interaction, but I think it's more likely subscription-based in terms of service as a platform model. The value, of course, is lower cost to the customer, fewer human bottlenecks, and some teams on the customer side could likely self-serve and be able to consume this with less friction from you, the supplier, which I think is probably a good thing for your customers if you're willing to let that happen, right? That makes you seem less scarce, though. When clients can self-serve and consume the knowledge, consume the advice themselves without a lot of friction, you're making it easier for them, and in some ways devaluing what you're offering. We're already seeing this, obviously, initially with McKinsey and other consultants. They have internal versions of this. McKinsey call it Lily, their internal sort of knowledge base, if you will, AI-powered knowledge base. I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see. Highly risky for them as an incumbent, charging hundreds or thousands of dollars an hour to make this available to customers. I wouldn't be surprised if they've already started, but they're keeping it quiet. If there's someone from McKinsey on the Zoom, perhaps you can tell us, or from BCG or Bain, how much of this is being sort of revealed or released to customers so they can get access, to the knowledge in less friction. Harvey, we've all talked about probably at some point, the paralegal, initially focused on the lower level of legal work, if you will. The AI platform, lovable for web developers, making it easy for web developers. What's interesting, just focusing on Harvey, it's been used by law firms first, right? I think the rest of us will be able to use Harvey at some point, or some version like Harvey. It's how we use GPT today, as a fake lawyer, as a surrogate lawyer. But what's interesting about Harvey is initially all its revenue and user growth, and it's pretty phenomenal user growth, is coming from top law firms, making themselves more efficient. But of course, as I said earlier, these things can jump boundaries or walls that are used to be firm or more fixed, and now they're more permeable. And certainly that's what AI allows people to do. Clients could use Harvey as an example. And then the law firms being disintermediated, I guess. Business model 2 is organized around this challenge, which is scaling with people isn't efficient. That you don't get a lot of efficiencies of scale. You get some for sure. Managing 10 people, managing 100, managing 1,000. You get some efficiencies with scale, but not that much when you think about the people costs. They tend to go up in a pretty linear fashion. And so that's the problem. And I think the model that we'll use, if you will be called agent as service. And these are increasingly autonomous agents performing not knowledge jobs, but knowledge tasks. And that I think the pricing will be something like a percentage of the salary of the human. Not necessarily priced that way in terms of what the price list says, but I think as the vendor selling under this model, that's how you'll think about it, and probably tell your salespeople to sell it to the client or to the prospect, which is, if this person costs $100,000, in real life, the agent will be priced as some fraction of the $100,000. That, I think that is a sort of a debate or a controversial point of view, meaning I've heard others say, no, agents are just software. So agent pricing will get depressed. Agent pricing will drop, kind of the lowest common denominator, because they're really just software. And that might be the case, certainly for commoditized agents. But I think highly trained agents in this model, agent as a service model, should be able to charge, for premium, with premiums. And I think those premiums might look something like as a percentage of the human output, or the human cost rather, that the agent replaces. Of course, the value to the client is, besides cost savings, is 24/7 output, as we already talked about. Agents don't take breaks or weekends. Instant scale, so there isn't this ramp. Sometimes you need to ramp what you're offering your clients quickly, because they need it and they need to consume it quickly. That's hard to do with humans. It's not hard to do with agents. And almost no onboarding, because you're not onboarding humans, you're onboarding AI. And once the training's done, presumably it's easier to add more agents, essentially. And we're already seeing this, as AI SDRs or BDRs, which is like a Silicon Valley term for inside sales. OpenAI rumored this about a year ago. I think it's about a year ago, or maybe it was earlier this year. It seems like a year ago to me. I haven't seen anything since, but this idea of agents being charging $10,000, $20,000 for an agent. That's the idea of charging as a percentage of the human cost. And Hippocratic AI starting to, in this case, bring kind of AI calls, calling to patients as a replacement to humans, and pricing that as a fraction of the human. Okay, the last problem within the third business model, I pay for value I don't get. That's the most common complaint about SaaS these days, is I buy seats or I buy licenses. And then I look and I realize that a third of the people that I've been paying for don't actually use the software. So obviously, I think we'll be able to move in some cases to outcome-based pricing models, where the AI system can deliver a measurable outcome, and it can get bought that way. And that is either success-based billing, pay per lead, likely success-based billing, pay per lead generated, pay per file labeled, pay per transaction log, whatever it might be, right? Great value to the customer. They only pay for value that is delivered by the software and not based on the seat. So you're taking the human adoption challenge out of the equation, meaning you're buying seats for everybody, but a third of the humans don't use the seats, either because they weren't trained properly, or they don't want to, or they didn't see a value, whatever it is. You take that out and you basically focus your clients' pricing on, did they get the outcome? And we're seeing this now, obviously, with most clearly with sort of customer success, customer service, call center type software, where typically they're hybrid models, where there's a base license fee, which is Zendesk, plus an automated resolution fee. In the case of Fin, which is now part of Intercom, it's still a seat pricing and then a resolution fee, and then Identify, it's a dollar per verification. So I think we'll just see more and more of this. Again, I think it'll start in what I would consider lower level knowledge work, or lower level resolutions or tasks, and then potentially move upward into those higher value to the tasks and transactions. But we're seeing it initially where it's easier to quantify, where the volumes are high, and where this kind of pricing model, I think, just makes sense to the buyer. Some sort of, again, hybrid model, base fee, and some sort of transaction fee. All right, okay. So I think we all have three choices here. Do nothing. Sounds like, based on the poll, that's not a good idea for about 90% of our audience today. Disrupt yourself now, or prepare to disrupt yourself, which I also call fast follow. So I think most of us, again, based on the poll, are in category 2 and 3 here. Disrupt now, or as a minimum, get ready to disrupt yourself, or respond to a disruptor, but don't respond in a year, like respond in a month, or at least decide your response. Be ready enough to decide your response versus being forced, right? So the way I want us to do this is, we got to remember those three forces of disruption: the cost of cognitive work going to zero, everyone can code, and machines work autonomously. Again, your list might be different, and that's okay. There's a longer list here of disruptions, and I think the level of these disruptions differ by industry, obviously, by category, by company. So use these as a guide, but if think about your disruptions, they might be different. They might be more geographic, or it could be anything. So in terms of, but likely traced back or sourced to AI. So the source of these disruptions are likely AI. There could be others. Obviously, tariffs right now would be something else on people's minds as a source of disruption. So using those three sources of disruption, basically what I want you to do is, just go and think about it. How exposed are you, your product or service, to AI forces? So I want you first to focus on yourself, which is my current product and service, whatever it is that I make and sell and deliver to clients. How much at risk are they, the product service, right, to being disrupted by AI? And that could be because of agents, or because you sell everything by the hour, or because you've built something that, quite frankly, today is faster and cheaper to build with AI. So someone could come along and build a faster, cheaper, better product more quickly. That you're just highly dependent upon a small number of consultants and human expertise to deliver your product or service. Whatever it is, you had a data advantage because you had access to proprietary data, or you were able to basically clean and interpret data in a way that clients were prepared to pay for, because they couldn't do it, but now maybe they can do it themselves and jump that boundary. So basically, the first sort of half of this exercise is, how exposed are you to AI forces? The second half of this exercise is, what's your business model risk? So I want you to look at how dependent upon you are you on one revenue source, one or more, but what are your sources of revenue, and how impacted might they be? And you can think about this hard. Sometimes you don't have to overthink it. Just like, what's your intuition here? Like, I would encourage you to do the first version of this exercise pretty quickly, and just sort of like really go through this and just kind of use your instincts and intuition. And you're all smart. You know the answers to most of these questions. Are you dependent upon a time-based business model? Can you launch new products or services or offers? Can you change your business model quickly or not? Is your business model kind of more fixed for whatever reason? Are you dependent upon a supplier for your business model? So if they change their business model, what would happen to yours, right? So that's one I think we need to consider these days. What I'm trying to get you to do is plot yourself against this 2x2. And there's a poll, and we want you to, again, not overthink it, but let me walk you through the 2x2. Product or service exposure to AI forces. That was the first sort of analysis I wanted you to do. I want you to do low to high, and then business model risk, low to high. So, starting on the bottom left, if you're low, maybe the answer is do nothing. You can sort of hide out, you can hunker down. You're probably paying attention. You're probably profiting while you can, harvesting maybe, and you're monitoring closely what's happening kind of in your industry or in your category or in your local market. Moving to the right, you've got high exposure, but your business model doesn't look that much at risk right now. So I think you need to prepare to disrupt as you would on the top left. I think that a lot of us should be doing work now to be ready, either to disrupt ourselves, make an offensive disruptive move, or react quickly to a disruptor. And I think the third is often what happens, meaning someone else disrupts first. You want to be able to respond quickly if they're doing that with your customers, because I think customers will be loyal until they're not. And products and services, in my opinion, you can tolerate some differences, plus or minus, in terms of quality. I mean, your customer will stay loyal if the competitor's product is only a little bit better. Like, I think you've got sort of more latitude around the quality of your product and service. I do think expectations are rising, but I think in general, you have a little more latitude with product and service quality. I think you have almost no latitude with business model. When someone introduces a new, better business model, I think most customers, when they find out about it, they want it. And they want it quickly. And if not, their boss learns about it, like the CFO, and says, I want to buy it that way. That's a better way to buy it. So that's why I think this idea of preparing to disrupt, so building your internal awareness and readiness, doing this analysis with your team, potentially exploring, a pilot or a prototype, maybe talking to customers about a couple different business model alternatives, not selling it to them yet necessarily, maybe, but certainly, so really paying attention here, prototyping, talking to customers. Be prepared to have the conversations that you don't want the answers to with your customers. Be prepared to have the conversations that you don't want to have the answer to. Those are the hard conversations worth having. And with customers, it's sometimes about the product roadmap, the quality of what you're doing, and are they happy? But the real tough questions are going to be around the business model. How would you prefer that I charge for this? Has someone else pitched you recently on a different pricing model or business model? You want to know about that. You really do. Because as I said, when customers see it and they like it, they love it, and they move fast. Top right, disrupt yourself now. You don't have a choice. You're talking to customers. You are redesigning your product or service in some way, likely to be AI enabled or AI enhanced. And now you're running immediately business model analysis, either in response to someone else's disruption, or you're taking 2 or 3 of these new business models and running your customers and your revenue model through the new model, trying to find out, frankly, likely, can I stay revenue neutral? That's how I think about it. I've got a 12-month time horizon for this disruption to happen, meaning I'll start it and it'll take me 12 months to kind of move through this disruption, depending on how many customers I have and so on. And, sort of what's my worst case here? How could revenue be impacted? There might be a lot of upside here too. And as a minimum, I'm looking for revenue neutral. I mean, ideally, right? That's probably what you're trying to solve for when you think about disrupt yourself now. So we're heading to the upper right. I don't see any other way to avoid it at this point. It's happening first for others now. The media companies would be one example, but not just media companies. So again, if you've already made some business model shifts, I'm not talking about product shifts. I consider product shifts or service shifts easy when compared to business model shifts. So don't brag about your product or service being enhanced by AI. I get it. Good job. You need to do that. But I'm definitely interested in what you've done on the business model side. By the way, use AI. Get some help here. Here's a good prompt. You might have a better one. Run it against GPT-5. Maybe if you're a pro user, you're going to get even more thinking and a better outcome from GPT-5 or your favorite AI, Gemini. But don't do this alone. Do it with your management team. Do it with your investors if you have investors. Hopefully you don't, like me. I have investors, and or do it with your AI. Now let me go back to that actually. So just because it's a good prompt, right? Talk about your disruptors. If these aren't your three disruptors, again, these are the three that I highlighted today. But if you want, use your disruptors. If you don't share my opinion and have your own, tell the AI about the disruptors that you think are going to impact you. Obviously, talk about your business at enough level of detail, enough context, so the AI can be helpful. And then here are the questions that you want AI to ask you first, and then obviously send it away to do the work. And then spend a couple hours on this with your AI. This is not a 10-minute task. This is the future of your company, the future of your business model. So spend some time with it. I think the way to think about this is it could be 30 days. You could do this in a week. But maybe it's 90 days is a reasonable sort of timeline for this process. Assess your risk. Use the 2x2 or a different one of your own making if you want. You're considering what you think are the most relevant disruptive forces to you in terms of your exposure to AI and then your business model risk. I ideate on potential business model moves. I think you're looking for revenue neutral in 12 months is a way to think about it. Looking for the worst case, trying to see what the upside, if there is any, could be. You then need to do your financial analysis. So whether you do that yourself or you have, a head of finance or a CFO you can lean on or a friend you can lean on to do the financial analysis, but you're obviously trying to flow your new business model, the options for your new business model through your forecast for the rest of this year, maybe into 12 months of next year. And again, seeing what these potential outcomes are. You might have other changes to your business models, obviously at the same time, which is, maybe some of your cost of goods are going down. Maybe some of your supplier costs are going down. Maybe your data costs are going down, whatever it is. So it won't be just necessarily the changes to how you charge for your product or service. You might have some changes on the kind of cost of goods side, right? You're definitely talking to customers. You're looking at competitors. You're really trying to ask yourself when, if do I want to do this now? Again, do I want to wait and respond? Do I want to wait to the beginning of the year? Lots of reasons, smart reasons to wait and decide, when's the right cycle in your business kind of cycles to implement this change if you're going to, or do you want to pick 5 customers and go with 5 in a very contained pilot, for example? That's how I would tend to think about it if you have enough revenue, a meaningful amount of revenue at risk. I did not do this, and I'll tell you in a minute what I did, but that's because I felt like the risk to us was too high. So we moved faster, frankly, into deployment of our new model. And let's talk about that. So we have a good case study in its section, and you guys know us, or some of you do. We have a great legacy product, human-powered learning. A high quality product, 70 NPS, typically 65% reimbursement rate, very happy enterprise customers. Our net dollar retention or our renewal rates are very high as well. NDR is basically around 100% for this product. And for consumers, it's about $750 a year. We do discount it, so the net selling price over the course of a year is lower than that, because we have our, kind of our equivalent of Prime days, I guess. Less for enterprise buyers because enterprise buys in volume. So the seat cost or the annual subscription cost for enterprise is lower at the per employee level, depending on how big the enterprise is and how much they buy. But that's kind of where we're at today. And so it was clear to me at least a year and a half ago, if not 2 years ago, we were at significant risk. We're a company that creates IP and turns that IP into content-based learning experiences using a lot of humans throughout that chain or throughout that, very, by the way, serial workflow. And I realized that AI would disrupt a lot of that. Everything from using avatars, AI avatars on video to these steps could be done in parallel, and the time to create new content or a new course or a new learning experience would be collapsed dramatically. I also did think buyer expectations, both consumer and enterprise, would go up, particularly around recency of content, because they would expect, because of AI, that nothing should be out of date. So those forces that we talked about, those three forces, that's essentially how I did this analysis over a year and a half ago when I thought about what would happen to section and how quickly should we act. I would say highest on the product exposure to AI forces, lower initially and even today on the business model risk. I mean, we don't have customers asking us to buy it in a different way, not yet. And we haven't yet seen a competitor come in and offer something that would really disrupt our model, not yet. So I think we could hang out here in this spot for longer. I've decided not to. So we've decided to be more aggressive and assume that business model risk is coming very quickly and basically preempt it. So again, you don't necessarily have to do this. That's what we've decided to do. And that puts existing revenue at risk, but I think just makes us a little more fit and stronger if someone else were to come after us, or if our customers would change how they want to buy this. And I do believe enterprise customers will. I'm not so sure about consumers. So we are disrupting ourselves, so to speak. We have launched this tool called Prof AI. Some of you might have used it even, or at least heard about it. It's an AI-powered learning experience. It's free for consumers. So that, talk about disrupting yourself. We took a product, not the whole product, but we took a part of our product that was worth $750 a year to consumers, and we've made it free. Not the whole product, but a significant part of it. We've made it free for consumers, and we've lowered the price quite significantly for enterprise. Again, not for the whole experience, not for the whole service offering, if you will, but a significant chunk, the upskilling part of our offering is $50 a year for the enterprise. So, and now the good news is we're also offering a better product, I think. It's instantly personalized. It's easily customizable. I think really this is the future of all learning. This AI-powered learning, I think, is amazing. I think it takes your breath away, quite frankly, when you experience it. Any kind of learning that is immediately personalized, and I think that is the promise of AI in education. And our initial results are fantastic, meaning completion rates are as high as they were with our other learning experiences. In this case, 75% for Prof AI, and 44 new enterprise customers in the last 90 days. And we're not really marketing it that aggressively yet. So we've decided to disrupt ourselves. There are implications to us, and there'll be implications for all of you as you think about where to plot yourself on that 2x2, and then to build your plans to execute your own disruption, or even to be ready for the disruption. So that the better Prof AI gets, the more our existing course offering will diminish or seem less valuable, and I guess that revenue, that business will probably suffer. The lower cost per employee for the enterprise means that we are betting on our enterprise deploying to more employees. At our higher cost per employee, enterprises weren't buying for the whole organization. It was too expensive. They were selecting groups to buy section for. Now, by lowering the price, the bet is they'll see, oh, we can afford to deploy it to more employees. But that's a bet we're making. We're hoping they'll open up access so you won't buy for more. And then finally, there might be a new model. We're not offering it yet. We are still seat-based. We've lowered the cost of the seat. So that's the first disruption, if you will. We did it to ourselves. The second disruption, or could be some other hybrid model. You can imagine one, which would be some base fee, license fee, and then a cost per certification or a cost per training completed. That's the outcome that buyers want when they buy upskilling. They want the upskilling to happen. And so I could see buyers, enterprise buyers, saying to us, I'll pay you once I know the person's trained. And so, I want to be ready for that, because that's not $50 a seat. That's probably, $10 for the license and maybe $100 for the certification. Doesn't have to be bad. These pricing models can swing in our favor when they're outcome based. Listen, the disruption's just going to accelerate. I wish it wasn't in some ways. GPT-5, and everybody has their own opinion about GPT-5, and it wasn't a breakthrough, which it wasn't, and they bungled the announcement, which they did, and so on. But it's clearly a better model, not dramatically in any one place, but across the board. I think it's a better model. It's a lot cheaper. So, this idea of cognition, the cost of cognition coming to zero, that's where we're headed. And these guys are supporting it, meaning they're trying to get us addicted by making great AI nearly for free and bundling the reasoning models into GPT-5 and making that, albeit with rate limits, available to all free users of GPT. Is Sam Altman being a bully? Is one thing, meaning he's trying to kill his competition quickly with a distribution advantage, but it's also, I think, good for users and means disruption comes faster. And it does look like they've made a little bit of progress, at least, against hallucinations and factual errors. I do think I think this is a really important point. Customers are loyal until they're not. And so really talk to your customers, and again, ask those tough questions that you may not want to hear the answer to. It drives me crazy when salespeople or customer success people at my companies say things like the customer's happy, or we had a good meeting, or we had lunch with them, and they seem like, that's just bullshit. It's just feelings. It's vibes. That doesn't create loyal customers. They will be loyal till they're not. And as I said earlier, business model innovation can turn customers quickly from being very happy and having lunch with you to churning. So really focus in on your key customers, ask the questions that you may not want to hear the answer to. This was a stunning, hyperbolic, maybe delusional statement from Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir. This was last week, I think, Thursday or Friday, on their earnings announcement. The goal is to get to 10x revenue and reduce our headcount. So I don't think this is possible. Obviously, he wants Wall Street to believe it's possible, and bid up the price of his stock. But he's at least being transparent internally to his team and signaling to the market. If they're able to do this, they'll have no problem innovating on the business model again and again and again. If they can be this efficient, if they can really grow at this rate by constraining headcount, by using AI, they're going to be able to offer all kinds of very, very punitive to the incumbents business models. Pay as you consume, or pay for outcomes, or they're not selling people by the hour here. You don't double, triple, or 10x revenue and keep headcount the same, or even even reduce it by selling people by the hour. It's the opposite of Accenture. It has 725,000 employees globally. If I was Accenture CEO, I would also punch out. And this is a great moment for all of us. Great moment for new leaders. And I'm referring specifically to this business model question. I think there's lots of ways new leaders can emerge right now in terms of leading AI adoption, or leading the thinking around the AI strategy. And I also think leading the conversation around the business model. What can we do now? What thinking can we do together as a team? You should be the one sponsoring that conversation. Take some of these slides, or take your own, or take a Michael Porter 5 Forces framework. Take your prompt and go get these conversations started inside your organizations if you haven't already. I think it's a great moment for new leaders, for people you don't expect necessarily, to say, listen, I want to lead this conversation, or I want to participate in it at least, and make a meaningful contribution to how we can be ready, and or how can we disrupt ourselves and or disrupt others by taking a new business model, or a hybrid business model maybe, to market. I don't think this is a moment about working our competitors. I think this is a moment to out strategize our competitors. I think this is what the next 2 or 3 years looks like for all of us. We're going to have to work really hard, obviously, but I think that I want you to think about this is a strategy moment, and that's a product strategy moment, or service strategy, and I also think it's a business model strategy moment. You'll do well. You'll nail it. You guys are smart. I got to give credit to the humans, including Tara and West, who work with me a lot on this deck the last few weeks. Obviously, we use lots of AI. If you want to use our AI coach, go to prof.ai. It's free, as I said, for consumers. Teams and companies have to pay. I think this is an amazing moment, and I think that the winners are going to be product innovators and business model innovators do one and then do the other, combine them, and you secure, I think, a great future.